Okay, let's see creating a new project. So in this video we are going to see creating a SQL Server function in Visual Studio CLR environment, and then deploying this CLR, I mean the .NET created function in SQL Server engine, so that the .NET function can be accessed by the SQL world as it is an SQL function. So first you have to start Visual Studio as an administrator, or you should log into your Windows account as an administrator. Why? Because in this project we are going to deploy some DLL to a SQL Server engine, so that requires administrator privilege. So here I am opening Visual Studio as administrator. So here the project is opened as administrator. The first thing we have to do is click on file menu, then click new, and after that click project. So once a new project dialog box opens, you should actually expand this Visual C++, then click on the database node under the project types. So in the template I have to choose a SQL Server project. Then in the name box specify the project name. So here I provided SQL-CLR functions EX as the project name, and I'm clicking OK. So clicking OK will open a dialog box. So this dialog box is asking us to set a database reference. Here I am going to point to the pubs database, which is running on this same machine. Since it is running in the same machine, I am giving server name as local. If it is running on a different machine, you have to provide IP address or the network name of that computer in which SQL Server is running. There are two authentication methods. I hope you are well aware of that. So I'm giving a Windows authentication here. Then I'm picking a pubs database. Test the connection. So here it says test connection is successful. So I'm clicking OK now. So here once we click OK to the connection, it is asking do you want to enable SQL-CLR debugging on this connection. So I prefer to say no here because this will stop a lot of threads on the SQL Server and cause unnecessary errors if we are not doing it in a right way. So since we are learning it for the first time, I would suggest clicking no. If you are using your home computer and the database is your personal database, then you can click yes here, and you can also start debugging your CLR function. So I prefer to choose no here, and if you want to debug, I will simply put the print or log messages. Based on that I can debug. So I'm clicking no here. So now the project is created. If I expand the test script, you can see test.sql. That's the only file created. For now I'm just opening it, and it has a default template. So we will delete those template, and I'm saving it now. In the server explorer you can able to see the data connection which we already made and the server in which the database is running. So both the nodes are listed here, so it's not required from now onwards. I'm just minimizing that. This test SQL also not required now, so I'm closing it. Our goal is to write one or two function on this project, then deploy that function on the SQL server. So to do that, what I'm doing, I'm just right clicking on the project and then I'm clicking add. Here I'm choosing a user defined function, or you can even choose a new item. If you choose new item, it will pop up a dialog and you are going to pick the same item which is listed in the context menu. So I'm just clicking a user defined function and I'm leaving the name as it is. That means I'm okay with the name of function1.cs and I'm clicking add here. So this added a function1.cs to our solution explorer. Here is the default content. So for now I'm just erasing this content and I will add the content which I already have. Okay, here the function is ready. If you see, the first function is test function and it returns a SQL string, and this is the string returned by it. Here you can see other function square of, which takes SQL int 16 as parameter, computes the square of that passed in value, then returns that as SQL int 32. You can also notice the usage of SQL-CLR data type. That means SQL string, SQL int 32, SQL int 16. So these SQL-CLR data types acts as a bridge between the data types of SQL Server and data types of the .NET framework. Okay. Also, you should notice the attribute which is in front of each function. So this attribute tells CLR that the function, test function, is a SQL function. That means this function will run on a SQL Server engine, or the SQL Server engine will invoke this function. So that's the purpose of this attribute, just to inform CLR that these two functions are written for running on SQL Server. Right, now we will save this file content, then we will just build this project. So the build menu, if I expand it, you may see a deployment menu. So if I click deploy, these two functions will be deployed into the SQL Server engine. Here is the build. So first we have to build this project and rectify all the compilation error. Once the project is successfully built, then you can deploy it. So I'm expanding this output window so that you can see the compilation result. I'm just pinning it here. Okay, let me build the SQL-CLR function. So you can see the build is succeeded. So when I deploy it, you can see the output, that means the DLL output of this project getting injected to the SQL Server engine. So I'm clicking build, deploy SQL Server function EX. So you can see this. First it produces a DLL, then it is actually starting the deployment. So it deploys this DLL into the SQL Server engine. So in order to test this, we can open test.sql. We know that we wrote two functions. One is a test function and another one is a square of function. Now it's time to expand this SQL Explorer also and open this connection. Then open the not stored procedure, open functions, and you can see square of which we wrote and test function. This is also written by us. Okay, let me open test.sql and we will access those functions. Okay, let's start this project. And before that, I'm just making this as making test SQL as default debug script. And then I am starting the debug session. So it's asking to turn on the debugger. I am just clicking no. So it is saying test function is not recognized built-in function name. Then it is expecting the DBO qualifier here. Put dbo.test function, then test it again. So let me pick no here again. So you can see here test function invoked message. Also you can see one row returned. So if you go to the function, you can see that the string a test function invoked, that is get printed on the SQL Server, I mean the output window. So similarly you can test the other function also. Before that I will clear this output and I will put dbo.square of. I will put 4 I mean. So this should return 16. I'm just executing this. So I just put no again. You can see the result is showing here as a 16. So we saw executing these two functions here in SQL, I mean here in Visual Studio. Let's open SQL Server, which is not yet opened. So I'm just right clicking and run as administrator, or it's not even required. I can just open it as it is. So connected to SQL Server. Now expand the database node. We created the function for pubs database. Remember when we started the project, we provided access to the pubs database, and our Visual Studio connection is based on this pub database. Then we wrote to function, and after that we clicked build compile, and then we clicked build deploy. That means those two functions will get deployed into this pubs database. So I'm just expanding this pubs database. Then I am expanding programmability. So we wrote function, user defined function we wrote, so we have to expand this function node. What we wrote is a scalar valued function. Both the function returns a scalar value. The first function returns a string, and the second function returns an integer, and that integer is computed based on the passed in parameter. So I'm just expanding this scalar valued function, and you can see the two function. One is a test function and another one is a square of function. These two functions are coming from the .NET framework. It is not written in SQL Server, it is written in .NET framework. Also, if you expand assemblies, you can see our DLL name here. So the DLL is injected into the SQL Server environment, so that SQL Server understands the exported function. So you can even form a new query here and accessing those functions as a normal SQL function. Say for example, let us test the square of function here. So if I execute it, I'll put dbo again. So you're seeing 100 as the output here. Similarly, we can invoke test function. Which doesn't accept any parameter. I'm just removing it, and when I execute, I can see test function invoked. So these two functions are invoked from .NET CLR. This is how you can write functions in .NET framework, and you can enjoy the rich functionality available on the .NET framework. That's all. I'm closing this video now.